Tom Cannan of Bridgman, Michigan, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, Tom, can you start us off with some background on yourself? To begin with, where and when were you born?
I was born in Eldorado, Illinois.
And what year?
Let's see, 19 and
22.
20?
22.
22.
22, there you go. Okay. What part of Illinois is that in?
That's right in the southern part of Illinois, right close to Kentucky
Okay.
and the Ohio River.
All right. Did you grow up there?
Yes.
Okay. And what did your family do for a living?
Well, my mother died when I was 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was in the automobile business, selling cars and running a hardware store and plumbing and heating.
Okay. Now, did he have problems during the Depression?
Yes, lost everything he had.
So what did you do then?
Went to work as a night watchman at a coal mine.
All right. And how much schooling did you have?
I got through high school,
Okay. And when did you finish high school?
1940.
All right. And then what did you do after you finished high school?
I first went into CMTC, Citizen Military Training Camp.
Okay. And can you explain what that was?
That was, I was in the field artillery at Sparta, Wisconsin, Camp McCoy.
Okay. But how is this different from being in the regular Army?
It was a month's program, and if you got in 4 years, it's a month a year. For 4 years, you were eligible then for officer candidate school when you were brought into service, or if you went into service.
You've been joined by a very large dog.
Just joined us.
All right. Okay. So that was just a 1 month program.
Yes.
All right. And so that you could stay fed that way. Did you have a job? Did you take a job somewhere?
No.
Okay.
I went from there. I joined Navy.
Okay. Now, I guess we have it in your records that you joined the Navy. I think is that 42 on there, or different things in different places.
Yeah.
Was it discharged? This, yeah. This says January 43. But you were at Camp McCoy back in 1940. That was before the war started.
Yes, that was only for 1 month.
Right. Okay. So then, where were you?
Then he was in the Navy.
I went back home
Mm-hmm.
and enlisted in the Naval Aviation Cadet Program.
Right. Now, did you do that after Pearl Harbor?
Let's see that.
Because in your records it looks like you signed up in 42.
I believe
Yeah.
I went in before Pearl Harbor.
Okay. So, do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
I was in Missouri visiting a cousin or family, and heard it on the car radio.
Okay. Now, do you think you were actually in the Navy at that time?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so you Pearl Harbor comes first, and then you join the Navy. All right. Well, I've got one of those already.
Yeah, I changed my date.
Okay. All right. So I guess I was wondering there. So there is some time there between. I guess in your records it indicates you joined the Navy in 42, and you were in Camp McCoy in 1940. Now, did you have any kind of work in between, or? And I remember at all what you did then?
Or are we missing the documents?
I don't,
Well, did you enlist in the Navy just as a regular enlisted person first and then join the cadet program?
yeah, I went over to Marion to join the Navy Seabees.
Okay.
And I was there 2 or 3 months, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get any kind of a rate in the sheet metal work.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be a Navy Seabee.
Mm-hmm.
And at my age, they said I didn't have any experience. And I couldn't get into Seabees.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, your qualifications said you could become a Naval Aviation Cadet, but you have to have 2 years of college.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I don't have the 2 years of college. Well, they gave me a bunch of tests, and then they said, well, we're going to send you on to St. Louis for further testing.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent me to St. Louis, and I got through all the tests there for a Naval Aviation Cadet.
And so did they let you in the program?
And then they sent me back home and said that for fellows without the 2 years of college, they had a 3-month program without pay. But they would give you 3 months schooling at a private school and give you 35 hours of flying time. But there's no pay.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'll take it.
Now, were they going to feed you and give you a place to
Yes,
sleep?
Yes. That was at St. Ambrose College, Davenport, Iowa.
Okay. All right.
And we got ground school indoctrination, aircraft and engines, and meteorology, and civil air regulations, and 35 hours of flying time.
Okay. So were you, for flying time, so were you actually piloting yourself? or-
Yes,
Okay.
I soloed and then got my private license.
Okay. So this was a civil aviation
Yes,
training that you were doing at this point? Okay.
yes.
All right. And what kind of aircraft did you learn to fly on?
It was a little, I believe it was a tailorcraft.
Okay. Was that a monoplane or a biplane?
It's a little single engine,
Okay.
about 65, 70 horsepower engine,
Okay.
2-passenger.
And how much training or did they give you before you got to go fly it?
8 hours, I would be,
Okay, so not a lot.
sir?
I was just asking, it sounds like not a lot of training, or they just took you up in the airplane and said, here's how you do it, and go ahead?
Well, they ride with you through takeoffs and landings. Make sure you can control your airplane and that you know when you're safe and all.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Some get it and some don't.
Okay. So, I mean, about how many men do you think were in your class?
About 10 or 12.
Okay. And then how many of them finished?
I really don't know.
Okay. But did some of them wash out or leave?
Yeah,
Okay.
some just didn't make it. But I think the majority of us, I'd say out of the 12, but probably 10 of us got through.
Okay, all right. Now, after you said that was a 3-month program?
Yes.
Okay, and then what kind of college classes did you take?
Well, there was the civil air regulations,
Mm-hmm.
meteorology, aircraft and engines.
Okay, yeah, I think we got that. All right. So after the 3 months, what did they do with you?
Sent me back home.
Okay. Now, were you expected to be called up by the Navy, or what was going to happen next? And there was a war going on.
Let's see. I think I went back home and waited till they called me up.
Okay. And then.
And I was sent to St. Louis
Mm-hmm.
and took the exams there and was sworn in there in St. Louis.
Okay. And then, so you've.
Sent back home,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for a call.
Right. And then.
And
Let's see. Now, it says in your kind of biography here, you went to the University of Iowa.
yes,
Okay, was that your next stop?
that was in active duty,
Okay.
and that was for Navy pre-flight
Mm-hmm.
at the University of Iowa.
And
And we had a 3-month program there.
what did that consist of?
Indoctrination, learned the radio code, and studied meteorology, and civil air regulations.
So was it sort of like what you had already learned at St. Ambrose? Was it some of the same
Well,
things?
it went deeper into everything
Okay.
that we brushed over there at St. Ambrose.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how long do you think you spent at Iowa?
3
Okay, another 3 months.
months.
All right. And then after that, where do you go next?
Into Hutchinson, Kansas, I believe
Okay.
it was.
Yep, that's what we got next. Okay. And what were you doing there?
Primary flight training.
Okay. And now, how is this? Now, was this the same kind of thing you had done already once before?
No, it was a heavier plane and a lot more detailed.
Mm-hmm. What kind of plane did you train on there?
It was a Stearman biplane.
Mm-hmm. Now, was it easier or harder to fly than the one you had flown before? Or were they both pretty easy?
Neither one of them was easy.
Okay. Some guys say they're easy, some don't. Okay. And how much flying time did you have to have, or how did that program work?
I believe it was about 60 hours, I'm not sure.
Okay. Now, was all the flying during the day, or did you fly at night too?
We had night flying too.
Okay.
2 or 3 nights of night flying, most of it was daylight.
Okay. And when you're flying at this point, like sort of how long would you be in the air, or how far would you fly?
1 hour time.
Mm-hmm. And would you land in other places, or just fly always back to the base again?
Well, at the start, we took off and landed at the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we got more advanced, we had cross country,
Mm-hmm.
where we flew to a different airport and landed,
Mm-hmm.
and then take off and fly back to our home field.
Okay. Now, did you do that while you were in Kansas, or did you do that later when you got into bigger planes? Or
Did that in Kansas.
okay. Right. And while you're staying out there, did you spend all of your time on the base, or could you go into town, or what was life like there?
It was, I spent most of my time on the base,
Mm-hmm.
but me and one other fellow went into town one Sunday, and we were sitting down at a little ice cream shack that was just temporary place, and we were sitting on a bench between the sidewalk and the street, drinking we both had sweet milk. We didn't get milk there at Cannan. And there's a car came by and stopped, and a woman got out, came over and asked us if we'd like to go home with her and her husband and her daughter and have Sunday dinner. Well, we didn't have anything else to do, so we went home with them, and they gave us our Sunday meal, and took my name and address, and then, of course, I left right after that. But I did get a letter from her after I got back home, after the war was over.
All right. So then to go back into your story, so your primary flight training in Hutchinson, Kansas, and then we have you next going to Corpus Christi, Texas.
Yes,
Okay. And what were you doing there?
flying.
Okay. What kind of aircraft do you have now? You know, like multi-vibrator
Let's see.
level or something like that?
Let's see. At Corpus, I believe it was seemed to me like they called it an SNJ.
Okay.
It was I think it was the Navy version of the AT-6.
Mm-hmm.
Best I remember.
Okay, so still a single engine plane?
Yes,
Okay.
around 550 horsepower.
Okay, but a much bigger engine, more powerful one than what you
Yeah.
started with. Okay.
Retractable landing gear, 2-pitch prop.
All right. Now, did you do all of your? Were you preparing to fly off of aircraft carriers, or?
No, I did before I left there.
Mhm.
We had a mock-up of a carrier just with chalk on the ground
Mhm.
and learned to take off and land in that area.
Right.
But I didn't get to the carrier.
Mhm. Okay. Now, when you're flying these aircraft, were there many accidents?
Yes.
Okay. What do you remember about those, or what kinds of things would happen?
Well, right there in Texas, Bruce Bradford, a boy from Heron, Illinois, which is only about 30 miles from my home. Bruce and I were roommates at the Quadrangle there in University of Iowa. We were roommates with a fellow from St. Louis for 3 months. And Bruce was a 2-year college graduate and a real good athlete, very intelligent fellow. Just fellow that you really liked. And he helped me quite a bit because he was way advanced in his schooling than I was, and we were trying to learn the radio code and meteorology, and we had a lot of training there too, marching and force marches. And he was one of the leaders in that force march, and we had the one fellow from St. Louis, Owen Dotson, that was sort of frail, and Bruce kept working with him, trying to keep him in the program, but I think he fell out of the program. I got down to Corpus Christi, Texas, and got through the first phase there and moved on to Beeville.
Okay. We were talking here, and you mentioned Bruce. I had asked about accidents. Did Bruce get involved in an accident, or?
Down there at Corpus,
Mm-hmm.
when we were in the advanced stages,
Mm-hmm.
he was about 2 weeks ahead of me, and he crashed and was killed there at Corpus.
Okay. All right.
And
Yeah.
just a short time after that, when I was given the chance of, well, the captain came by and told us the ones without the 2 years of college were all being given discharges.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, those of you who want to remain, you enlist for 6 years. If you don't, you'll be given a discharge. Well, I already had about 2 years in, and I didn't want to spend my life in the service. So I took my discharge,
Mm-hmm.
and so they gave me the discharge. The next day, a group of us went over to the Army Air Field there at San Antonio, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and signed up for the Army Air Corps.
All right. Now, so the point when you leave the Navy, had you gone on to Beeville, Texas? Was that because you're Corpus Christi and then Beeville?
Beeville,
Yeah.
yeah, that was just an advanced field there
Right.
in Corpus.
And did you spend? Okay, so that's that same area then. Okay. All right. Okay, so that all fits together then. Okay. So basically, the Navy has decided if you don't have college, you're not good enough for them, and
They wanted more time to train you, or give you more time after they trained you.
right. Okay. So now you've gone off and you switched over to the Army. Now, did you have to wait a little while before you actually started up with the Army, or what happened?
Well, as soon as I signed up, they gave me a job for Parks Air College
Mm-hmm.
at Sikeston, Missouri, of training aviation cadets.
Mm-hmm.
And but they signed me up into the Army Air Force, but really I wasn't sworn in until after I had to go through the draft. I came back to Eldorado and signed up for the draft, and then went from there straight down to Sikeston, Missouri, and started in the, well, I got about a month's training there for instructing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I spent a year and a half there instructing Army Aviation Cadets.
Okay. And what kind of aircraft were you using there?
PT-19s, that the low wing, constant speed drop, fixed landing gear.
Mm-hmm.
It was a primary trainer.
Right. Okay. And do you have did you come in there, I mean, did you have enough knowledge of flying and so forth to kind of just step right in and be an instructor? Or when they train you to be an instructor, what are they teaching you?
The maneuvers that the students needed to graduate.
Okay.
We had basic acrobatics, stamp rolls, slow rolls, loops, and moments, and takeoffs and landings, of course, day and night.
Now, were you happy with being assigned as an instructor, or do you want to get into combat?
Well, really, I enjoyed instructing.
Mm-hmm.
We were at Parks Air College, and all the time I was there, for a year and a half or so, we had no casualties.
Mm-hmm.
It was very safe. Parks was very, very particular with their students there. They had some pretty strict tests to make before they graduated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But these people were these all civilians that you were training, or were you training
No, they were
Army pilots now?
They were Army Air Force.
Okay. So it's a civilian facility, but the Army has borrowed it to train their pilots.
They were, some of the instructors were older people,
Mm-hmm.
civilians.
Right.
And I instructed quite a while before they ever called me up to St. Louis to be sworn in to
Mm-hmm.
the Army Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was there 6 months or so before they ever gave me a call.
Okay.
But I had to go back to Eldorado and sign up for the draft
Right.
and be drafted.
Right. All right. Now, while you're living in Missouri here, did you live at the college? Or?
No, I lived with a private family.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there about a year and a half.
Okay. And how did the people in the town treat the pilot trainees? And I mean, do they like having you there, or?
It was mixed. Of course, they had quite a mixture of pilots too.
Mm-hmm.
But the family I lived with was an elderly man and wife, and their daughter was in the insurance business
Mm-hmm.
there, and she had a daughter. They were all nice, respectful people and all. But you had all kinds of instructors. Some of them pretty raunchy, and some were real nice young men.
Mm-hmm. Well, pilots are sometimes kind of wild characters.
Yeah. Reckless.
Yep. Okay. Now, you spent about a year and a half as a trainer here.
Yes.
Now, what changed that? Why did you go somewhere else, or what happened?
They closed the training field.
Okay. And then what did they do with you?
Took me into cadet training.
So why would you be doing cadet training if you'd been a cadet already? Or was this Army cadet and that's different?
That was Army.
Right.
I was sent down to Keesler Field at Biloxi, Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and had to go through 3 months of Army basic training. No
Okay.
flying, no, just basic training for the Army.
All right. Now, when you were there training now, I mean, the base is normally what people get when they first come into the Army. Yeah, so were you mostly training with guys who were new to the Army? And,
Yes.
Okay. So was there anybody else like you who'd come out of some other program?
Yeah. Some of the fellows that I flew with there in Saxton were down there.
Okay.
There were two or three of us. I believe there's three of us that were former instructors at Parks Air College that were down there at Biloxi, Mississippi.
All right. And now, what did they actually make you do there? What did the training consist of?
Just basic indoctrination. A waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the Army.
And how easy was it for you to adjust to that? I mean, could you figure out what they were doing and just do it? Or did you?
I just joined in whatever I was assigned.
Mm-hmm.
Go through basic training and bivouacs and what have you.
Now, did they do a lot of kind of drill and discipline stuff?
Yeah,
Okay. Now, had you not had to do that before? Was this?
yeah,
Okay.
yes, sir.
But did you figure it out pretty quickly, or did you just not do it?
I just go along with the,
Okay. Do
go with the flow.
Now, once you completed the 3 months of basic training, now what happens to you?
I was into pilot training at, well, I believe it was in California,
You yeah, I guess.
Lancaster, California, I believe it was.
Did you spend any time in San Antonio first? Did you go to Lackland or Kelly Field or someplace and then go to California, or do you think you went straight from Biloxi to
I believe I
California?
went straight from the best I remember, I went straight from Mississippi to Texas, I believe it was.
Yeah. And you have it, that's what we have listed here on your itinerary anyway, because there's a whole bunch of different Army air bases right around San Antonio. There's
Yeah.
Lackland and Kelly and Shepherd and so forth. Okay, so now you're back into flight training again, but isn't this stuff you've already done?
Yeah.
Okay,
There at Lancaster, a friend of mine from hometown was a captain in the Army Air Force. He led the first squadron of B-17s that bombed the Pulaski oil field in Germany.
oh, Ploesti is Romania, but yeah, Europe.
And he came by and picked me up, and he was going out to, he'd finished his missions and all, and he was going to pilot training school, and asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, yeah. So that's when I was taken out to Lancaster, California,
Okay,
and they gave me 3 different check rides there, and neither instructor said they could help me any. I said that I knew as much as they did or more, and so they sent me right from Lancaster to Arizona, Tucson, or Marana, Arizona.
yeah. Air bases, but near Tucson?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Marana. All right. Now there, are you a flight instructor, or are you being trained still, or?
Well, the first assignment I had was to train the returnee pilots who had their 35 missions in B-17s, training them to be an instructor in an AT-6.
Mm-hmm.
And I was given 2 or 3 of those instructors to train to fly the 6 and to go through the acrobatic stage, you know, of the light plane, transition from the bombers to and make instructors out of them.
Okay. Now, what was that like? I mean, did these guys think they knew everything already?
We had some of the nicest fellows, and then we had the cocky ones.
Mm-hmm.
I had one fellow that was real nice, but I saved our lives one day too. He, first time I rode with him, he had as I say, he had his 35 missions in on the 17, and in that 6, we went up, and I asked him to do a loop, and he dove down and went through the procedure, and then he came back on the controls so heavy, he stalled the plane out, blacked me out, blacked him out, and threw the plane into a high-speed stall. And I came to before he did and had enough altitude to get control of the plane again. And he was very, very thankful and not a bit cocky.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had another pilot that was little, well, he ran in to me one day with a girlfriend that he was wanting to date. And he just took a disliking to me. But we got along okay, but some of the pilots were, they wanted to learn, and others were, they had a little old shaved tail camp, or a little old instructor that never been in a big plane. Well, really the largest thing I was ever in was a 750 horsepower plane. That was in the Navy when we were training for carrier landings. But then we had some pretty nice boys, and then that's when the friend that we were bunking in the same barracks, Eugene Conley. That was when he was flying solo in a T6 and had quite a bit of flying time, a good pilot. I don't know what happened. He flew into Picasso Peak and was killed. And that's when I was sent as his escort to Atlantic City, New Jersey.
And do you go to the funeral and meet his family, or just?
I went to, took his remains from Tucson, Arizona to Atlantic City, New Jersey, to Jeffrey and Keats Funeral Home. And met there and met his mother and father. His wife gave birth to a baby boy the day he was killed. But I was with Gene the night before when he called and talked to his wife. And then the next day was when he flew into that Casio Peak. And I spent, 2 weeks, I guess, going to Atlantic City and then staying there to the funeral and taking part in the funeral. And then I just flew around there a couple of days to stay until beauty pageant was over.
So is it Miss America or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, at that time, let's see, we're pretty late in the war.
That was after Japan had surrendered.
Okay, so the war's over, so they can turn all the lights back on in Atlantic
Yeah.
City. And,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a resort thing. Okay. Now, was the assignment at Marana, Arizona, was that your last one, or did you get some others after that?
Well, that was really my last assignment. I was sent up to Randolph Field. No, up to Phoenix, Arizona,
Okay.
Williams Field.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting up there for a couple months until they called me for discharge.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so when did you get out? That end of 45, basically, or?
Yeah,
All right. And then did you go back home again to Illinois, or what did you do after you were out?
I went back to Illinois.
And
Got
then,
drunk.
okay. Now, did you stay on and live there for a long time, or did you move off and do something else?
Lived there and got married and lived there 69 years with my wife.
Okay. And what kind of work did you do?
Heating and air conditioning business.
Okay.
We had our own shop. Had our own business. Wife did the bookkeeping and helped with the with the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And took care of the business and also took care of the mechanical all mechanical effects or equipment at the hospital there in town.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 25-bed hospital, and I took care of all their mechanical equipment.
Okay. All right. Now, when you look back at the time that you spent in the service, what do you think you took out of that, or how did that affect you?
Maturity, responsibility.
And did you ever, while you were in, did you ever think that, well, you mentioned that the pilots who come back, they've been flying bombers overseas and you'd never left the country. Did you feel like you should have been doing that, or did you think you were just doing your job like everybody else?
Well, I felt like I was doing a job that was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I did some training there that I didn't think I needed. A lot of wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
And going through that basic training twice, and then get me through all that Navy training.
Mm-hmm.
When they said all along I couldn't make it, but I did. And then when they said, you take a discharge or enlist for 6 years, I thought that was, well, I guess the end of the war had something to do with it. I don't know.
Well, eventually, but yeah, it was kind of a snafu war on some level. Sort of some parts worked better than others. Okay. Well, it certainly makes for an interesting story. So thank you for taking the time to share it with me today.